Okay, that's good. Let's turn the brightness down, up contrast. I think that image looks better. Is this racist that I'm a yellow man in yellow color? All right. So today we're going to do some final QCing and assembling, and this is to get um, the hood to fit correctly, and then to identify any other issues that are going on. So um, let's see here. We've got this guy, classic black. They're all black with a Nauvoo cap. And then we have, let's see here. We need to check focus throw, and then I check the mounting when I finish assembling it, but I always have to recheck it because maybe I missed something initially. But yeah, today is just a quick, that's good. Focus throw is good. Uh, Aperture control is good. But today, um, that's what we're going to do. Before we do get started, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's helped me immensely um, when designing like lens stuff. And it may not seem significant as I'm explaining it, but the more you look at camera lenses and the more you look at making these assemblies, so the first thing we're going to talk about is finding the radius based on um, an arc and a chord. So this is a chord, this is an arc, and if you know the length of the chord and the height from the chord to the apex of the arc or the parabola, whatever you want to call it, you can determine what the radius is for the circle, right? That's not a great example, but in in understanding how to do this, what it really allows you to do is if you had if you had an odd shaped circle, right, and then you had this protrusion in the circle, and then you had the iris here. This is actually from the Canon 40 millimeter EF, which is why it's pretty. It's very good to know because you can find the radius or the diameter of the main circle, but you don't know the full circle here. But you do know this point here and this point here and that length. And then you also know the height. So from that, you can find the radius of that circle so you can draw another circle to match that. Um, Look at the link. It explains it better. In Shaper, it does it automatically for me. And I think in other ones it does it too. But if you wanted a quick freehand on how to do it in like FreeCAD or Shaper, what you would do is you would first draw your chord, then you draw your height, connect these two in a right angle triangle, find the midpoint there. You're just going to extend that down, and this right here is your radius. So you can draw a circle like that, and it should hit both points. But understanding how to, or just knowing that you're able to find radiuses of circles that aren't complete circles was a huge game changer for me because it makes your designs that much more accurate and just overall cleaner and tidier than if you were to try to freehand an arc to match a curve. Um, and then it also gives you the ability to go back and say, I don't like the radius of this. Let me make it slightly bigger or slightly smaller. All right. So let's get into it. So we're going to be working on, so it tells me 64 through 76, but this is, if I remember correctly, 50 through 60, because there were a few backers who dropped out, so those numbers are slightly different. Um, so let's get into it. Again, what we're doing is checking functionality, um, cleaning up the lens hood to make sure it fits correctly on the lens without too much resistance. I'll show you how it shouldn't be. And I think this one might actually be it. Yeah. So this one is way too tight. So we have to probably take a few millimeters or like a few thousandths of a millimeter off the this bottom rim, and all we're gonna do is essentially resurface it on something that's a straight edge. So you give me a second. I'm gonna get it set up over here so that it doesn't interfere with everything else. Um, so I was not here on Friday because I felt like garbage, like absolute garbage. I woke up and my body joints were hurting for some reason. My face had like this massive pressure for some reason. Um, and I was just not up for being on the live stream. It was not a good feeling. Um, all right, guys. All right, where did I put it? So yeah, once we finish with this stuff, while I'm trying to find my sandpaper, once we finish with this stuff here, I'm gonna be shipping it out. Um, I should, at the end of this, be contacting the backers for this one, confirming their addresses, and then packaging and shipping them off to their respective owners. And I'm slowly working my way through the emails, and I can tell you this much. Most of them are just checking for updates. Um, and then some of them are concerned that maybe I'm being less than truthful about this Kickstarter campaign. That I'm, for lack of a better word, scamming folks. And I can see how it could seem that way. And honestly, if I was in if in your shoes or their shoes, I'd probably think the same thing. But um, this is what I'm trying to do to mitigate any fears of me scamming folks, because I am here constantly assembling, constantly prepping, uh, so I can send these out, so I don't become uh, one of those guys. All right. But they are, all the emails are appreciated. It's just I have this voice in the back of my head that says, um, these people hate you. It's not true, but that's just kind of how I was raised. Always have to doubt yourself. All right, let's see if that works. Well, it's getting better. Still not good. But now, having rested over the weekend, I feel fantastic. Fantastic. Oh man, to not be old, you know. So I know I've told you guys that one of my projects is converting a Sigma DP1 into an infrared camera, along with, I guess, a full spectrum camera, um, along with adding an E mount to it. And one of the primary motivating factors for that was I wanted to pair the lens from the Lomo LCA with the DP1 because I just think it's kind of funny, or I guess ridiculous or absurd to have two opposing um, two opposing two opposing philosophical ideals in photography, right? The Loma LCA is quick fire, shoot by the hip, set it and kind of forget it. But then you have the Sigma DP1, which is something much more controlled, something much more focused, and then having the two have to work together, I think is just kind of funny. It's kind of absurd to me. Um, so yeah, that's probably the first lens I'll be shooting with once I finish that conversion, which means once I finish this Kickstarter and finish the after Kickstarter sales, um, then I'll finally be able to get to the Lomo LCA on the Sigma DP1. Until then, I am sitting here trying to find my sandpaper. This is ridiculous. Now I look a fool of a took apparently. All right. Well, it fits better. Um, so if you don't know already, um, I love using lighters to clean up um, prints because a lighter is a much more directed heat versus a heat gun. And I want to make sure that the heat that I'm shooting or the heat that I'm using is contained relatively within the area so there's less deformation across the print. I feel like hitting it with a broad spectrum heat like a heat gun, it's kind of, you're kind of risking um, like deformation in your prints. The, well, it works fine there. There is an issue with that. Oh, wow. That's the issue. Hey, I appreciate it. I do I do appreciate the people who keep me in check. Um, every email is kind of like it's like piling on um, to to keep me, you know, pushing these lenses out. Because I mean that's what you guys wanted. That's what I said I'd do. So So, speaking of ongoing projects, um, I is there anything on the horizon besides the DP1? Yes, yes, there is. I um, I have the lens taken out of a an old Minolta Hymatic. If you watch the Korean, I guess, psychological horror movie about the devil who takes photos of people that he kills, it's that camera. How's it going? Um, yeah, so I've got to adapt that because I'm very interested in seeing um, how I can effectively, I guess, translate ideas from the movie into the exterior of the lens housing. I like doing a regular adapt adapting adaption um, is pretty easy, but I'd like to see if I can somehow incorporate some of the symbology from the movie into the exterior of the lens. Um, just because I think it'd be interesting. I'm always I'm always chasing like threads that interest me, and one of the things that kind of does interest me is irregular lenses. Um, not in not just in like what they do, but in their shape. Because I mean, all lenses are really just cylindrical containers for the element, right? Holds an aperture, um, maybe has a focus, uh, and they all look pretty much the same. But I just think that you know lenses, they can look different, but they still perform the same function, right? And I guess it's more of a personal exploration with these with the Minolta Hymatic, but I mean, I wish Lomography or the Lomography Society had kept the Loma LCA shape for their Minotaur lens that they released instead of changing it into a standard lens. I think a lot of the tactile feel of the LCA is lost, and I think personally, right, to me, I think the charm in the LCA is in the way that it's moved, in the way that's manipulated. The tactile slide to open the lens shutter or the lens curtain, right? The lens cover, the levers for the focus and the aperture. These things, they may seem insignificant to some, but I think for you know a big part of the LCA, that's part of the joy of using it, right? And using cameras in general is their different tactile feels. Um, it's a little tight. So yeah, I've got Hymatic lens to adapt. It's a 40 f2.8, I think. And then I've also got a few Olympus XA1s to adapt. And with that one, with both of them actually, I'll need to figure out how to uh, actuate their iris, because on these point and shoots, iris is uh, controlled alongside with shutter. The leaf shutter is essentially its iris. So there is an iris built in. I have to decide on whether or not I want to keep it or I want to make something of my own. Um, it just depends on how hard. So each lens, it's like roughly an hour or two. Um, on a good day, right? I was I was telling folks on Wednesday last week, I had the choice of doing one by one or batching, and for me, um, I prefer batch building because what it does is it's like a psychological thing, right? So at the end of the day, if I have one or two built, um, I'll be thinking, oh my, I only have one or two done. But if I can batch them, um, and have multiple built up at the same time, to me, it's just there's less weight on my shoulders, knowing that there's progress being done, instead of visually just looking and seeing that I've only completed one or two. Um, and I think different strokes for different folks, but that's how it is for me. This is good. Maybe a little bit more, and then we should be good. I had to toss the first one I was working away because the fitment was not right, and part of the print. Um, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, about an hour or two. I estimate it closer to 2 hours because um, between where is it? Between tuning the focus inside and cleaning that up, and then making sure that the mounts work correctly, having to so on the Nikon Z and the Canon RF, um, there's some minor adjustments on the focus ring uh, so that everything moves properly, and that uh, the focus ring turns appropriately. Because if you don't, then like it's just stuck. Um, I think I have an example of one that I need to tune. That one is actually good. That's not the one. That is not one. Okay, yeah. So here's one. I lied. That one's actually fine. I already tuned that one. I believe this is one. So the third one, possibly, I am. So what this Kickstarter showed me was I am woefully prepared to do any sort of mass manufacturing like this, right? It, it, it makes me look like an ass um, when I say that I'm going to do something and it takes longer than I said it would, because in my head, I think I can do everything. Um, but in all honesty, hopefully the next generation will be a collaborative project between me and like an art or niche lens manufacturer. Um, I reached out to Lomography because I actually do like a lot of their stuff. I like their philosophy. I like um, compared to Lens Baby, which is another niche art lens manufacturer. I think Lomography has kind of um, the entire. I don't want to reduce it down to this, but the entire vibe of the photo, like they have their finger on the tips of the photographic or the my photography culture, right? Um, I think they would ideally that's who I'd want to work with. So I emailed them Um, they said they'd get back to me, but I just think that they get a lot of these, like, let's partner up, and I've got a new lens idea that's, I think is good, so I don't think I'll get much out of it, but we'll see. Um, the third gen, ideally, I'd like it to be glass, to maximize the image quality across the frame. But that's only if I can find um, a lens manufacturer who can work with me. This guy's back! Oh man, let me. So yeah, it all hinges on whether or not I can leverage this Kickstarter and the momentum that I have lost because I've been taking so long on this, to see if Lomography wants to work with me. Or if they take it and make their own, you know what? That's fine too, right? I'd rather have the idea out there, than stuck in my head because I'm not the right person to bring it onto the market, right? I'm not. Ideas are useless, right? Unless somebody acts upon them. It's kind of how I feel about it. It'd be nice though, if I were able to do it. Got to print more of those, and I think I brought that box over already. Ideally, though, in my head, what I want to happen is that somehow I'll work with Lomography. I'll get a job over at Lomography making stupid lenses and stuff, right? But that's just a pipe dream, um, from a dumbass, right? Um, but if there's no Lomography or there's no third-party lens manufacturer, uh, the third generation is going to be a tilt shift lens for Wigglograms. Because I think Wigglograms could benefit from um, that shift in focus plane because, like, I'm trying to imagine in my head how it would look, um, that toy look, and I think that shifting of the focus plane would have a would make a really good impact on. Definitely, I agree with you. Um, Having more lens elements to correct chromatic aberration, to improve sharpness, to improve its light gathering capabilities. I'm all for that. I know there was a Kickstarter a while ago that kickstarted a 50 millimeter lens, and if I remember correctly, it was probably slightly larger than this, probably maybe 20 millimeters, 15 maybe. And that had multiple glass elements. I think it looked like a fantastic lens. Um, so I am totally on board with that too. You're 100% correct on um, adding meaningful lens elements to improve image quality. That's where I want it to go, right? At the end of the day, that's where I'd like it to be. If it's not for me, and somebody else runs with the idea, number one, I can't stop you. I'm some dumbass in Georgia. Um, yeah, I can't stop you. Right? What am I looking for? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So the last step that we want to do is an interesting one, and I will show you shortly here what that is. So we just need to solder down the mechanical connections on the lens cap and the lens hood cap. Um, and what that's going to do is it's going to lock it into place uh, so that it doesn't move out of place. And what I like to do is 1, 2, 1, 2, and we go in and smooth it out. And this guy here, it's not really necessary with the joints here, jointed or soldered, um, but we'll do it just in case. And then we will do the same thing here. This one gets kind of quickly done because there's not a lot of room to work with, but same thing. This one doesn't get smoothed over because I think it needs that scarring to hold well. And there we go. It's all good. Where is my brush? Good. Oops. So the stream today might seem a little laggy. It probably is a little laggy. Um, I have my iPad working as a third screen. So I have the iMac screen in front of me with all the YouTube stuff and all the comments, so I don't miss anything. I've got my laptop running OBS, and then I've got the music um, playing on the iMac or on my tablet. Um, do I need it? No, but uh, it just makes everything easier, so I don't lose track of where my OBS is, so I can mute things or I can make transitions go. Um, Speaking of making transitions go and muting, I need to make a macro pad uh, so that I can just, like the Stream Deck, so I just click things, and I have my shortcuts. Last thing, this, because I'm happy with how everything is the face, and uh, these pockets should fit over the screw heads here, and it's just a press fit so that if I need to get back into it, I can still open it up. But that is the finishing touch to make it look pretty, right? There's no exposed lens. There's no roughness from the supports. Um, it looks good. And then I've got these lens grips or the focus grips. So it comes with three. Um, This I took from Tamron. Tamron has this strange angled grip profile, and it feels great. I actually this is my favorite one, and it's the default one that I throw on. Then you have your standard square focus grips from the old manual legacy lens days, and then you have this you know not textured, just grip. Um, so yeah, you can choose whatever one you want, but I think this one feels the best, and I think it looks the best. And then if I could find my awl, so we're just gonna walk it around, and it should just walk itself on, and we are golden. There we go. So this guy, we're gonna do a quick dust, try to identify any spots that need to get it removed, and then we're gonna set it aside um, in an area that is not in an area that is away from the sanding, so that I don't have to come back and clean anything. So what I do is, quick rocket dust inside the baffles here. And then I'm looking through the magnifying glass to see if there's any dust on the inside that I need to blow through or blow off. And then we come in here with a lens pen, and if you know anything about these lens pens, you never touch the bristles, um, because the oils on your fingers will transfer onto this brush, and it's ruined, right? Don't use it again if you ever touch it, because it will transfer onto your lenses, whatever you're cleaning. So um, always give it a blow with the rocket blower first, right? You extend it, blow it to dislodge any stuck dust that might be there. Um, and then the last thing I do is I take this felt tip, and we just do a few rotations to pick up anything that may be there. And again, avoiding touching it because I don't want to have to buy another one of those. All right. All right. So that looks good. I am going to close the aperture as far as I can. Set that aside. And then we're going to work on lens cap or lens rear lens cap, making sure that there's no dust in there. All right, and then one upside down. Where is my, there it is. So that's good. That is going to get put on. Then set it aside again. We're going to clean the lens cap. All right. All right. And then we should be clean. Very clean. Um, so usually I'll set it up so that it's runs perpendicular to the lens lock, but for the time being, while I'm clearing everything else up, I'm going to set it so that it's parallel so that I can uh, put the lens hood on so that they can stay together uh, and nothing will get lost. You know what? I okay, I don't want you to break it, but I would hope that uh, if you do, these videos. Um, so the idea is that I can send out the STLs locally to you, and you can print out whatever part you need if it breaks, and do the repair yourself. And kind of what these live stream assemblies are for is so that there's like a I'm glad it does. I'm glad it does. Like if if I can get more people into 3D printing and into CAD stuff, uh, I think the Kickstarter will have been worth it. It's such a massive technology, um, and I know I feel like a lot of people think that they're not creative or they can't do creative things. I don't, dude. I'm the least creative person, right? Like I'll draw stick figures and stuff, but um, just being able to I'll be right. Give me 1 second. Give me. This comic is literally the comic that got me into making things. I was a wee lad in Minnesota, and I had picked it up either from the library or from Goodwill. Oh boy. Um, but yeah, uh, the Micro Series Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Donatello. Um, it's about him finding a pencil from an artist, and anything he draws comes to life. That's literally what 3D printing is. That's why I'm so excited about it, man. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see how it fits. Man, once I finish this, I've got to do a deep clean on my cameras. So much dust from leaving it exposed. Okay. Seated, locked, no movement. Oh, buttery smooth. It's good. So, in my original thinking with this lens, I was running mechanical shutter, but it was suggested in one of the other streams that, oh, eh, you know what? Let me show you. Let's see. If you give me a second, I'm gonna swap out the cameras real quick, and we'll do a live demo with this. Let's see if this sells battery. Got 23%. That's perfect. All right, let's open that up. All right, and then, oh, I'm also in APS-C mode. Let's turn that off. Okay, stop it down a little. All right, everything is fine. All right, we're gonna plug that in. Wrong one. There we go. Feeds up. Let's go ahead and so I'm going to set it to 44 or 45. And my thinking is that it should work uh, essentially like a regular 44 millimeter lens or 40, whatever standard focal length. Um, is it on? It is on. So anti-shake is on. It seems to be holding up pretty well. Um, let's turn it off. Hmm. I'm going to slow it down. Slow it down, sub, whatever. Drop the ISO. And then all right, let's do on. And then off. Gotta slow down a little bit more. All right. Eh, I think yeah, I think you're fine setting it at 45 or somewhere thereabouts. to me, it really didn't make a difference. But I think more rigorous testing should be done. And I might have to do that a little bit later. Let's pop that back in. No. There we go. Now we're back. So yeah, I think um, I think it'll be negligible. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Back to that. Thank you for reminding me before I um, went on that little tangent. Um, normally, I would have suggested you guys use the because to me, like that's just normally what I do, right? I use mechanical shutter. But I think it's probably going to be safest until you're more comfortable with a lens to use electronic shutter, um, so that there's n there's no risk of um, this rear baffle hitting anything or anything like that. Um, Now, with that said, I have what I'm calling a depth checker, and what it does is just that it is. Um, all right, that's on my to-do list for tomorrow. I've got to clean this place up so that I have everything where I need it. Right. But what I have is these depth checkers, which is essentially just a cutoff so that you can see where the baffle hits in relation to where uh, your shutter is, so that you can confirm whether or not it's going to hit. And I send this video out. Oh yeah, yeah. And I send it with it because last thing I want to do is damage the camera. Um, so the depth checker is my way of mitigating any potential damage. And I just have to be very careful with what I'm saying because I'm not trying to damage it. I have tested it on all of my cameras. I test every single one on my camera, both the depth checker and the lens itself, to make sure that it doesn't clash on the shutter. So while I'm confident, um, that's different from you being confident in the lens damaging your $1,000 equipment, right? So I suggest probably the best way to use the lens starting out is with the electronic shutter. Until you're more comfortable, or until um, you buy an A7, like one of those old A7s, and use it on that. But yeah, electronic shutter is where it's at. But it's where I'd advise you to be at um, for safety reasons. So yes, I believe it does. So while I've only tested it on the A7R2, um, I've had people use it on the A7 III, and I'm blanking on the name. Give me a second. Sony Alpha Blog. Mark Alhadeff over at Sony Alpha Blog um, tested it on his A1 and on the A7C. So to for the most part, I believe Sony is pretty standard across board. The only manufacturer I think might have a difference is Canon. Um, and I need to get my hands on a Canon R5, so I have to either shell out a couple thousand for that or rent one. But there might be something with slightly different on the R5 versus the Canon RP that I use um, to test my lenses on. Um, but if there is, and if you see something, before you even press the shutter, and you're checking with a depth checker. If you see an issue, shoot me an email, and then we can kind of work it out so that I can get you a part that works on your camera, because you're paying for this, and it should work, right? So yeah, I can adjust the depth of that this rear baffle so that if you're uncomfortable with how close it is to the shutter, we can reduce the length, and then we can increase the fins so that the image is clearly defined between each frame. Is that okay? Is that all right? There we go. So, funny story. While while cutting the supports off of the focus ring with this Japanese flush cut saw, um, I was holding it in such a way that I cut into my finger. Um, so I went out and bought another one uh, so that we could keep everything clean. But I cut into my finger, um, and surprisingly, it was such a clean cut. It didn't bleed. Um, it was such a clean, thin cut. Very interesting. I am very accident prone with tools, apparently. If you were here for my earlier streams, this cut on my ring finger severed the extender tendon on my ring finger. And how I got it, I was using, um, let me show you, chainsaw disc grinder disc. I was using something like this. Oh wow, that is apparently too much. That's fine. We'll do that. So it's like a wood carving tool, right? And I was excited to use it. So I was on my way to go do something else, right? So I believe I had just finished resurfacing a couple of tabletops, um, and then I was gonna go. I think I needed to go pick something up at the store, but um, I was using it and testing it on a piece of wood that I had laying around, and one of the things that's uh, One of the things that I'm not very good at is safety generally. So while I'm playing around with it, uh, I think two mistakes happened. I didn't secure the piece to a work table or anything, and secondly, I took too big a pass on the piece of wood. So what happens is once that piece of once the disc goes into the wood, it digs into it, right? So essentially, what you're doing is you're stalling the blade, so it stops, and that rotational force isn't going anywhere else, right? That rotational energy isn't going anywhere else except into the angle grinder. So while the wood is there, it's stuck. It spins out, cuts my hand, and then it flies down and cuts my leg. Um, Severs the extender tendon, right? So I can't do two finger guns correctly, right? My finger doesn't want to go all the way. Um, but yeah, very accident prone. It's they say all the OSHA rules are written in blood, and that's kind of how it is for my life. The safety things that I do, the safety precautions that I take. Um, well, I don't think most people understand. I kind of have to do it that way because if I don't, um, bad things will happen. Like I had a friend who was a fashion designer, and she wanted me to do some woodworking for her. To do the concept she had was it was doing like framework houses as garments, right? So essentially, it's like a framework house, and I think she thought I was working a little too slow. So she's like, "Why don't you just do this or that?" And I'm like, "You can't really rush power tools because if you do, and they don't like it, those power tools are kind of unforgiving." Um, so she's on the. I show her how to use the miter saw, and I show her the proper way of using it, keeping hands off the blade area, the bed area, and generally just away from the blade, right? Safety goggles, no gloves, but being careful and using the holds. So my particular miter saw had um, like workpiece holds, right? So you could clamp in your work, and that's how you're supposed to do it, right? You got to make sure that you do it well. You follow procedure so that you don't get hurt. She must have been rushing it because like a few minutes later, I see like a piece of wood fly by. She's like, "I think I'm going to take a break." I'm like, "I'm telling you, right? You can't rush these things. You can't rush power tools. They're not forgiving at all." Um, and I know this uh, because um, I almost, I'm going to say this kind of facetiously, but honestly, it's very truthful. I almost lost my hand. I almost lost my face to a table saw. Um, and this was, I had no prior woodworking experience prior to using one of those cheap contractor saws. So I was doing a cross cut without a cross cutting sled and with the fence. And if you know anything about woodworking and table saws, is you don't do a cross cut with the fence locked into place because if the piece between the blade and the the fence moves at all, that piece is coming out and hitting you in the face. I didn't know this, right? I didn't know this when I first started. And I started because I wanted to make longboards, skateboards, long skateboards, longboards. Um, so my first time cutting down pieces of plywood, Baltic birch plywood, or I think they call it Finnish plywood, like from Finland, not, I guess, Baltic or the Baltic states, whatever. Um, so I cut these pieces down, right? I cut the 5x5 sheet down to like 12 inches, 12-inch strips, and then I wanted to cut it down to like 42 inches. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, no, we'll just run it through the table saw, right? That's what it's for. So I stack up the plywood, and I'm like, oh, this is going great. This is going really good. And then a few seconds later, it catches, right? Between the blade and the fence, it catches, and it sends the entire stack of plywood um, into my abdomen, and I lurch over. And uh, thankfully, I was able to catch myself not on the blade, but on the table saw uh, bed or the table. And I will tell you, that is not a fun experience. I watch all the kickback videos on YouTube. Don't experience it. If you want to experience it, I guess, sure, go ahead, use foam, but that is not an experience anybody should have. It is terrifying. Um, Another funny one, if you guys are up for it, and I guess you guys really can't say if you're up for it or not because I have control of the stream. uh, I so as I progressed with the longboards, I stopped using a bandsaw or a jigsaw to rough cut and sand down. I started using router templates. So I had a straight cut bit with a bearing um, on the middle of the shaft instead of on top of the bit. So I could put the template on the bottom, clamp it together, and then run it through the router table. So yeah, you might laugh, right? But this is what I had on hand. I had a sewing cabinet. Um, it's super cheap MDF, sewing cabinet, and it worked. It was fine, right? I cut out a section, dropped in an acrylic sheet, and then drilled out the center hole and mounted up um, the router. And in those days, I was like, all right, I need a router. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just need a router. So I bought the cheapest one I could find. Um, and then again, I bought the cheapest straight cut bit with a bearing, and I plugged those two in, right? At that point, I didn't understand, uh, how hard you were supposed to torque down the collar or the collet. Um, and I didn't understand the need for controlling the revolutions per minute or the RPM of um, the router bit, depending on the material you're using, right? Um, so I throw everything in, I clamp everything down. Uh, I check, yeah, everything's going fine for like the first maybe 5 minutes, right? And then a few seconds later, I'm going in the right direction. I'm going slow, but the router bit catches into into the template or the blank that I'm cutting out. And what happens is the router dislodges from the acrylic plate. The router bit uh, becomes unsecured from the collar in the router, and it flies out like literally. It was like 6 inches from my head, right? Like it flies this way. I hear it ping across, hit the wall, ping, hit the garage door, and finally I see it rest like a few feet ahead of me, um, just spinning, right? Still trying to spend whatever rotational energy it had. Um, and that was the day I saw Django Unchained because I was done for the day, right? There's no reason to continue working after the machine almost killed you because of your own stupidity. Yes, yes. Um, I'm very glad I don't have to work with any of that anymore. Um, I might actually have to start considering it again if I pick up a CNC, but I won't be in the room or I'll be behind somewhere safe because it's all computer controlled, instead of me having to find the correct RPM right next to the machine. So, but um, staying on topic with the longboard stuff and the woodworking, I uh, I took the I think this was probably like the second or third longboard I made. This was the full sheet, the full 5 feet, um, 5 feet by like 10. Um, I took that because I thought to me, the springiness of the longboard would dampen any of the road feel on a long distance longboard trip. So I used to live in Sacramento, South Sacramento. So if you guys are familiar with that area, Elk Grove and South Sacramento, so right on the border there. And uh, uh, I regularly longboard to Davis, just because I wanted to, just because I wanted to see if I could. Um, and then I figured, you know what? I'll try longboarding to San Francisco. We'll see how that works. So I pick up my 5 foot longboard. I'm like, yeah, this will be good. This will be a good idea. Let me carry this heavy, like 30 or 40 pound board. It's not that heavy, maybe like 20 pounds. Um, and then let me break in new Converse Chucks. Um, both stupid ideas because by the end of the longboarding, I think I had blisters on my feet because the shoes themselves weren't broken in. Um, and then the extra weight from carrying the longboard, it it made zero sense, zero difference on road feel. But it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was fun. There was definitely long distance longboarding is one of the things that I really do need to get back into. But in the South, it's kind of hard. In Atlanta, it's not really pedestrian friendly for some reason. Um, I thought the suburbs and I thought Sacramento was spread out, but coming out here, Jacksonville, Jacksonville and Atlanta, there might be metropolises. They might have downtowns, but they are so spread apart. It's bonkers. So spread apart without any real pedestrian interlinking or bicycling interlinking. And I keep hearing rumblings of something called the green belt. and that's supposed to be like a bike-friendly path from Florida through a few other southern states. But I don't think that's ever going to happen, right? I don't think people care enough to have something like that. Uh, and then so in that same trip with the 5 foot board, I um, I went to hike Mission Peak. So what I did was longboarded to San Francisco. Um, Took the ferry from Oakland because the Bay Bridge or the Bay Bridge didn't have the walkway yet, so you couldn't walk across. So I took the ferry from Oakland into Fisherman's Wharf, walked around for a little bit. Then um, I I think I took the Marta or the BART. Right, Marta is I think that is Atlanta. But I took the BART over to um, I think I took it back over to Oakland. From Oakland, I went down to Hercules, and then I went down to San Jose um, to hike Mission Peak. Totally worth it. Absolutely worth it, right? Like if you have the chance to hike Mission Peak, go for it. Um, by the end of that thing, I was so sore. I took the Amtrak back home, uh, and then from the Amtrak, took the light rail down to was it Meadowview? Probably the Meadowview. It's probably the closest one. Yeah. And funny story. If you, I told it previously, but I think I was talking to the Void. Um, on that same trip, so this was the second time I did it. The first time I did it, I went straight on the 80. So the 80, uh, all the way up to Oakland, there is a direct pedestrian route. You can take a bike, you can walk, you can do whatever, and you can make it to Oakland to get to San Francisco. Um, the second time, there's from south from South Sac, you can take the I-5, and that cuts in through like a lot of smaller towns. Um, I shoot Jeff Classic Black Harvest Gold. This guy. So you can take it, and it's a smaller path. Um, Cuts through Antioch and cuts through Concord. It cuts through all these cities that nobody really cares about. So I was going through, and I was exiting Concord, and the only way out of Concord through that way is through a bridge into Antioch. And this is it's a two-lane bridge, right? So you got one going, one oncoming, one right, and then you have a small shoulder. And I'm fine, right? Like I'm fine walking across. But this dude in a PT Cruiser rolls up. He's like, "Hey, dude, get in. You know, you shouldn't be walking." I'm like, to me, I was like, "Shit, I don't really want to get in, but uh, I'm probably holding up traffic, and if anything, it's gonna cause some sort of accident." So I'm like, "All right, let's do it. Let's go." He's like, "Where are you headed?" I'm like, "I'm longboarded to San Francisco. If you could just drop me off at like a Safeway so I can pick some water." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, for sure." Dude, super nice, super nice. Him and his lady were super nice. They did exactly that. They were like, "Yeah, man, you should be walking on the bridge." I'm like, "There was no other way into the city." Um, so he ends up dropping me off at Safeway. I get some water, uh, and I kind of go on my way from there. Um, but it just reminds me that there are, people are not as hostile or as threatening as I think they are in my head, right? The monsters in my head are just the monsters in my head. People are um, much more empathetic and much kinder than I think media portrays them. And I'm not saying anybody in particular. I'm just saying people in general, right? Um, but what threw me off was he was in a PT Cruiser. Nobody drives a PT Cruiser, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Dude was nice, but yeah, I have to. Once I finish this project, once I finish this Kickstarter, I'm going to look into um, a walkable path from, I guess, from Atlanta to California. I'm on a longboard the entire way, and then just kind of camp along the roads there. Um, I I feel very at home on the road. I grew up. I grew up. We moved like quite a bit. Um, so that's kind of where I'm the most comfortable, is on the road, and I need to get back there. Just like Jack said, he should have never left the island and lost. I should have never left the road. Right? That's kind of where home is. All right, let's see. Great. There we go. That's good. All right. So continuing with the longboard topic, right now, the board that I ride is a drop through. I like to call it a bow tie because that's kind of what it looks like. Original bow tie design. So it's got, do I have photos of it? But it's a drop through bow tie carbon fiber sandwich, hollow core, Baltic birch skeleton. So it's lightweight, super stiff, um, very low to the ground, so easily controllable, and generally much easier to carry than that piece of shit 5 foot board. Um, uh, and that was the extent of my longboard building, right? I got into vacuum bagging, vacuum pressing. Um, Sadly, I don't. I was getting into vertical laminated or VLAM longboards, which essentially is just cutting boards. They look super nice if you do the clear coat correctly. They shine like candy, man. They're gorgeous. I didn't like it simply because you couldn't add concave or convex to it. So essentially, you're just riding a plank of wood. Um, but I was able to make one or two custom boards because some folks wanted it. But I believe I have. Oh, I do have this. So early on, when I was making longboards, I got so when I was at Davis, I had access to Mamika. Ma, 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 is a Japanese silk printer, and essentially what I would do for graphics occasionally is well, for the senior project, you had to make a product, and my product was longboards. So um, what I did was I wanted to replicate that painterly Japanese calligraphy cherry blossom things because I'm Asian and of course I have to do things so stereotypically, right? But that's what I did, right? So I made a design in Inkscape or an Illustrator, and I printed it out on the silk printer, and then I laid it up with some epoxy. And essentially, if you're familiar with rice printing or rice paper transfers, whatever you want to call it, um, it's essentially that, right? So the silk kind of dissolves into like a clear substrate, and all it, and it leaves just the pigments, right? So whatever is printed in color is left over um, on the longboard because the epoxy turns the fabric clear. So what I linked there is one of the last longboards that I made, and I was going to sell it, but I stopped. I just stopped a lot of the woodworking stuff after I cut my hand. Um, so I had it. Uh, just laying around, and there was this lady who contacted me about being in like the Sacramento art show. I was like, dude, I am not. Um, I don't think I am an artist. I think there are people who are artists, and saying that me, some scrub, is an artist, I think is a disservice to them. So I was like, nah, that's all right, man. She's like, I like your longboard though. I'm like, thanks. If you want it, you can have it. Um, I am of the mind that um, longboards should be ridden and shouldn't be stored away. So I have no issues, um, just giving it away. I think people think that it's strange, and I think in this particular instance, maybe it's just me in my own head, but I think she thought that I was trying to, uh, you know, talk with her or chat her up, so to speak. And I wasn't. Like I couldn't care less about that. Um, my feelings on longboards is, like I said, they should be ridden. They need to be ridden because that's their purpose. And if they're not ridden, it's kind of a waste. Because this object has no purpose anymore, right? This thing that you made has no purpose, even though that's what it was made for. Um, so hopefully she's out there enjoying it. Um, I always like to think that people who longboard do enjoy it. So hopefully she is. And right, so that is a jacquard silk with textile inks. I think they're dye-based inks, um, not pigment-based. I think they'd have to be dye-based because it's a fabric. Um, but no, I was trying to find my longboard, but it's not there. Whatever. Um, so the longboard that I'm currently riding is Mark II. The first one was 42 inches, and 42 inches kind of long. Um, it was kind of sagging, and there was a little too much flex for my liking with even with the carbon fiber sandwich. So on version 2, Mark II, I reduced it to 40 inches, um, and instead of just being a carbon fiber sandwich, um, I decided to do the hollow core. Reduces weight, and it doesn't affect rigidity, deflection, or anything like that because it's still just a sandwich of carbon fiber and wood. Um, but this was 40 inches, kind of shorter, easier to carry. Um, overall, just I think a better experience with a drop through versus the version 1 of the Mark 1. But yeah, I need to get back on the road with a longboard. Got to find somewhere to long distance board to. When I was doing the long distance longboarding, I asked a friend if he wanted to go, or he kept asking me, he kept saying he wanted to go, right? But every time I brought it up, he's like, nah, that's all right. He's like, you're always picking the hottest times to go. And, granted, it was kind of hot when I went. Triple digits through Vacaville and Vallejo um, and Fairfield. But I mean, kind of inescapable because the right time to do it is generally during the summer. Um, okay, that's good. Let us do the deep clean now. Actually, yes. So this guy, I need to. Um, so this focus ring, I think I need to replace it because yeah, this is slightly thinner than it should be. So I'm going to replace that right now. Oh man, speaking of the long distance longboard, I saw this guy at the Red Rock gas station when I was longboarding to San Francisco. Crazy. I think that's when you had, was it the Evo or the Subaru? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you get the lens today? Either today or tomorrow, I think, right? Okay. How's the kid? I guess, how's the family? I shouldn't leave out your wife. Oh no. Did you guys get through COVID okay? That's good. Dude, that's bonkers. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I got it. It feels like crap. Makes you feel like absolute garbage. It would have been okay if COVID took me away, man. Not really. I keep hearing like there are long-term neurological effects from getting COVID, so I'm kind of looking out for any of that. We'll see. We'll see. 'Not anytime soon. Um, I'm applying to jobs out there. I'm trying to get there's it's a photographer position over at Davis, trying to get into, but apparently Davis doesn't like supporting its alumni. So if you know anybody who works at UC Davis in the law center and works for their media division, tell them to hire this guy. Wait, what are they protesting now? Is it still fees? That's better. Oh yeah, I don't know why they were protesting the financial aid office, man. Like literally, that's the one institution in that school or in that university that's trying to help them out. Glad you like it. So yeah, if you do if you do try it out, I would suggest using electronic shutter or electronic curtain versus mechanical shutter for the time being. Um, was explaining earlier, I think it's a safer option versus the mechanical shutter. Well, I mean, just because I trust the lens doesn't mean that you guys should. Um, and using mechanical shutter or using electronic shutter makes sure that the shutter assembly doesn't come down and doesn't risk possible damage to your camera, of which I'm trying to avoid here, guys. All right. Mint classic block for the focus grip mint. Nice shoot drift. Andrew, if you're watching, this is yours here. Um, should be getting it out to you at the end of the week with the rest of these guys. There it is. Oh, that's good. All right. So I'm trying to bring the poncho back, guys. I'm going to uh, make a simple Peruvian backstrap loom. Start making some ponchos, guys. That and I'm gonna start knitting Aran style fisherman sweaters because apparently it gets cold down in the south. Um, and I'd rather 100% wool versus like the 80-20 acrylic wool blend that most manufacturers use. But yeah, I'm gonna bring back the poncho. But that all is on the back burner until this Kickstarter gets done. Once this Kickstarter gets done, I'll be free to start on the many other projects floating around in my head. All right, so that's cleaned up, right? This guy just does not stop. All right, there we go. second. I'm going to change the music. Right now it's Krangbin, and think gonna listen to some Los Bichos. I I just did. I think, is it still in the chat? If it is, I don't know how to get rid of it. I reported it and it should be gone. Perfect. So how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Um, I've just been talking about stupid stuff that I've done. Um, so yes, um, but that particular one is going to have two lenses, and majority of the feedback is people don't like only two lenses. So I'm kind of on the fence, but it should be easy enough to do, um, and I will make it. Uh, Along with that, I need to do the Fuji version. Um, but uh, gotta work through these first. Yeah, one one thought that I've been talking with somebody about is possibly using a speed booster, but I'd have to find the correct lens configuration so that when it projects from the speed booster, it is accurately or evenly distributed between the three lenses. I think that's the only way to get three frames on APS-C. And that's also why I don't have a Micro Four Thirds version, because since they're so tiny. we go. I've been wanting to get my hands on a Fuji GFX for the increased sensor size to see how well it works with 4 lenses. Um, but I don't have an arm or a leg to spare to sell to get one of those. Right? Oh man. I like to think that once I do get a GFX, that'll be it, right? Like I'll stop wanting more cameras after getting the digital more medium format that Fuji offers, but I just don't think that's true. That wanting to acquire more hardware is always going to be there. But GFX is definitely one of those that I need to pick up. All right, then the focus grip. Yeah, it's totally true. That that A1 though, Sony's Sony's pushed the camera market so much um, to its widespread adoption of mirrorless to just getting like insane focusing or autofocusing. That A1 is another dream camera on top of the GFX though. And in all honesty, I kind of like the Olympus that I have that I'm shooting with right now. It's the OMD EM2. If I don't do like professional work, like I think it's fine for like my personal carry. It's so robust. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. You gotta make do. You gotta be happy with what you have. I think I think you would find that you more than likely are good enough to use that camera. You'll find situations to use it in the way that you think it should be. All right. feet. Let's see. What's next? This guy. All right. Let's see if you mount up. It's good. It's good. It's good. Okay. All right. Let's get to it. Pop that out. That guy goes there. Hood is good. Cap, cap, cover. Yeah, I couldn't quite settle on gold. It reminded me of like wheat fields. Um, that's why I went with harvest gold versus straight up gold. Um, do you know what order number you were, or what backer number you were? And it's actually very hard to find a gold TPU. So this is um, this is the Harvest Gold grip. It's yeah. that while we work on this stuff. Ho ho! That is you. So you'll be getting a message in Kickstarter later today, or tomorrow. Once I finish packaging it up, just confirming your address. If you want to confirm it now, just say yes, that what's on file is right. I'll go ahead and get it packaged and shipped for you too. Um, but you can always wait for the message coming through Kickstarter. Perfect. Speaking of which, I do need to pick up a new roll of the Harvest Gold, just to make sure that I have enough to print for everybody or the rest of them. Okay, okay. Yeah, I can't do special characters or accented characters in USPS. I'll probably. Um, is it better to use the O or the OE? Does it matter? Okay, perfect. Um, perfect. Ah, I will do that. So the goal for this week is to finish out the. I've got about. So on top of these 10, I've got about 30 that need to do this. So that's what I'll be working on this week. So emails will be coming out for 64 through 64 through I believe 103. Actually, uh, should be 63 to 113. Uh, so emails will be going out probably later tonight or tomorrow morning to confirm addresses. I'll work on packaging and the final QC, and then hopefully by Thursday or Friday I should be on lenses. I'm saying it's 100 to 110, but I mean technically since people drop through, it should be 114 through 126 or 7. because there's a few gaps between those. And then that'll be going on for next week. Don't like the fit on this. This one is actually much better. Okay, let's pump that out. Oh man, time is flying by. It's almost 8. If if I can be honest for a second here, or candid for a second, there was a lot of hesitation for me to do this Kickstarter in the first place. I'm very concerned with how things function in the real world, and without having firsthand knowledge of how it affects um, other cameras, right? How it seats on other people's cameras. Um, like once the Kickstarter closed, I was like, oh shoot, how do I verify um, that nothing is going to happen to the cameras, right? Like it's fine for me because well, I'm the one who made it, right? I know what it does, how it works. I have the camera in front of me. If anything goes wrong, I know what goes wrong. But I can't diagnose those issues um, for other people's cameras. And what's helped me kind of push through that thought is the addition of the depth checker to make sure that nothing, before you hit the shutter, you know where it sits in relation to your shutter blades. But also, a backer told me that they were just gonna use uh, electronic shutter, and like these answers are so obvious, right? Like I had a Nikon D750 that had a messed up memory card slot, and I needed to get samples for one of the original wiggle lens that I made, and I was like, I can't do that because I don't have a memory card. Um, so I was posting on Reddit. Um, I was like, yeah, I need to get like a live view from this, right? Can I plug the HDMI through, capture it through OBS, and then screenshot it from there? And this dude is like, dude, you're totally overthinking the problem. Just tether the D500 or D750, uh, and import it directly to the computer. I was like, wow, I really did overthink it, you know? Uh, Sometimes solutions are just kind of sitting there, and because I'm in the forest, I cannot see I hope so. I hope it does give some safety, some peace of mind. It it does for me. Um, yeah, it's sometimes I can't see the solution because I'm so far into what I'm doing that the most obvious answer um, escapes me. All right. Like it, like it a lot. Yeah, I was. I don't think anybody's here, so I'm kind of talking into the void, which is totally fine. Um, but when I started, I was looking for ways to um, print color or multicolored prints for these lens caps, right? And when I made it an option on the Kickstarter, I had no idea how to actually do it, right? In my head, I was like, I'll figure it out, right? That's what I do, right? I figure it out. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, once it closed, I'm like, how am I gonna do this? I had no idea how to do this. What did you get yourself into? But I was looking between getting there's an addition there's an add-on um, that there's an add-on that you can get. It's like up to 8 colors that you can add on, but it's like $400 or $500 for the kit, and I'm not like I just need three simple colors. That's all I really need. I was looking into that, or G-Tech has a three-color printer, but the reviews on the three-color printer on that G-Tech were kind of hit and miss, right? Like it takes a while to get it tuned correctly. And the other part is that I probably couldn't get it loaded onto Clipper, which is what I was using, which is what I'm using um, for the printers here. They're all off right now because I've got to do some maintenance and cleaning. But I don't think I would have been able to get the G-Tech um, printer interface with Clipper in a timely manner. So while I wanted the G-Tech or that mod, right, there was also another one uh, that modified G code and used simple steppers or simple extruders um, to to give you multicolored prints. And you know, it was a reasonable price. It's $200, and you can get up to 4 or 8 colors with the number of um, extruders. Uh, but in the end, all I did was so there's Chep. Chep is a guy. Chep is a guy. He's not a guy. He's a he's a great resource for 3D printing, right? He's got a YouTube channel, Chep. He's got you know uh, calibration files. He's got tips and tricks, troubleshooting stuff. But he has a very simple uh, multicolor print, um, and it's using the Z Hop. So all this is I have it set up so that I can still use the BL Touch. So uh, it uses the same mesh from the first print, which is the first print is teal. You know, first print is white. So it prints the white first. It makes the mesh, prints the white, uh, resets to uh, starting position. I clear out the uh, the priming line, and then I heat up the heater. The script I have um, specifically for multicolor is to keep the printer hot, keep the print bed hot, and keep the heater hot, right, up to temp, so that adhesion doesn't get lost in between each print, and I can simply pull out the white filament, load in the teal filament or the mint filament, print this part, and each color layer is 2 layers, which I think gives enough density to give the actual color. And then after that, all I do is I send the black print, which has a Z hop of, since it's 2 layers, it's 0.4 millimeters, so it hops over the white and the mint here, and it prints out uh, as one piece. So I don't have to go through and paint things. I don't have to go through and manually glue things in. It The color change process takes like um, it takes maybe like 5 minutes max. The print for the white takes about 45 minutes. The print for the teal takes about 40 minutes. And then the lens cap itself, that's like 12 hours, right? So I sit there, wait for the white to finish printing, swap it out for the teal, wait for that to finish printing, swap out to black, and then I can just set it and forget it, right? I don't have to worry about changing anything. I don't have to worry about reloading filament. I don't have to worry about anything else. Um, but getting those first filament changes. Um, and it's particularly finicky I found that every time that I print a new lens cap, I need to either find, or I'm sorry, I have to, uh, I don't have to level it. I have to do a probe calibration every time I do a new print because I need to make sure that it probes consistently again. I don't know why. That's just kind of how it is for mine. I'm sure other people have an easier time because when I do another print, the adhesion it kind of goes down. So it's um, either I reapply the adhesion promoter that I use, or I probe do another probe calibration and make sure that everything is starting from zero, so to speak. Um, and it's not too much of an issue, but it's kind of a hassle, just because I think printing over the same area reduces the efficacy of the adhesion promoter. Um, that's what I think. That's my leading theory as to why I have to reapply either the adhesion promoter or have to recalibrate the probe because um, I don't think I should have to, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I should be printing more, but I need to do maintenance on it because it got caught. It messed up so it bent the pin on the BL Touch, and I need to repair the BL Touch, clean the bed off, and then figure out why it was clogged. I think uh, so. I was having huge clogging issues and stringing issues early on, and I thought it was the humidity. But I dry my filament, and in the area that I'm at, it's not very high humidity. Um, the issue was I wasn't uh, hot tightening high enough. So the temperature I was using for tightening my nozzle was 260, right? And I print at 245. 260, 245, that's not much of a difference, right? So, I mean, if I tighten at 260, 245 is probably going to loosen it over time. And these prints, they're like um, 12 to 24-hour prints. So if it stays that hot that long, something's coming loose, right? The temperature differentials between the aluminum heat sink, not the aluminum heat sink, the aluminum heat block, and the brass nozzle is going to eventually, when it cools, expand and then contract, right? Expand and contract, and it'll loosen up eventually. So the thermistors that I use now, they can go up to 300 C, and I've edited the Cura configuration so that, or the Clipper configuration so that my max temp for the nozzle is uh, 300 C. So I do all tightening at 300 now, and because of that, I've had no or little to no stringing at all now. Little to no clogging or uh, like oozing because uh, tightening down at a higher temperature means that uh, it's less likely to come loose because you're not reaching those temperatures, right? The difference between 240 and 260 is not that great, but the difference between 245 and 300 is quite a bit. And by not reaching those temperatures, um, the chances I reduce the chances of me having to deal with stringing. Um, because the uh, because the temperature differences between the two materials. I've also swapped out to bimetal heat sinks. So I think it's copper and aluminum or copper and titanium, whatever one, right? But it holds heat better, and I think it's just overall uh, better at keeping everything tight and locked down. I haven't had an issue yet, except for colored prints. Colored prints tend to ooze and what's the word I'm looking for? Ooze and string. It might be because I need to dry out the rolls, but um, I do it every time I throw it on the printer. So I don't know. Um, I think I need to work on the temperature. Probably do like a stringing print test on the color prints, but generally they give me a little more hassle than the black PETG because primarily what I print with is black PETG, and my profile for black PETG is pretty dialed in. Okay, good. So we're coming to a close. We got 15 minutes left in the stream. I just want to let you guys know what I'm planning for this week, what my schedule looks like this week, what my goals are for the week, and what to look out for if you are um, backer 6-4 through 113. You guys should be getting an email through Kickstarter to confirm your addresses because I know I've taken quite a bit of time to get this out to you. So your living conditions or your living accommodations may have changed. Um, so once I verify that you guys are still at the same location and I'm not sending it off to the wrong place, um, I'll go ahead and print out the label and I will ship it out to you guys. It is, how can I say this? It is a relief to get to this point, right? 113 is approximately halfway through the 180 orders or rewards that I need to fulfill. Um, it's a great feeling, right? So every time I look on that backer report, um, it's just less and less names that I have to knock off. Um, Less and less backers that I have to sit in my head, and these caricatures of them are them just like, "Arr!" Right? Because that's how I would be, right? Honestly, right? There's no blaming them. There's no excuse for grossly grossly misevaluating my own skills, right? My own ability, right? And there's a lot of crow that has to be eaten, and starting to get a taste for it. Like they're not wrong. They're right, right? It. Any other way you look at it, it would look like I'm just kind of taking the money and running, but um, I am here, slowly chipping away at it, and my earlier updates on Kickstarter make me look like an ass because I misjudged my own ability, um, and that's my fault, right? That's nobody else's fault but mine. So I am getting there. We are getting there as a team, you know. We're almost at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, and I am almost ready to exhale, right? I'm holding my breath until I get everything figured out. There are a few people, again, that I need to reach out to in order to uh, fix some issues they're having with their lens. Some have inconsistent irises, irises across, and that really shouldn't be the case, which is why I'm spending so much time initially uh, in the streams to make sure that they they work correctly. Um, so me, putting it up to my ear and listening to it isn't me just being facetious and pretending like I'm doing something. I'm trying to listen to the way that the blades move inside the mechanism to make sure that yes, they are moving correctly. I don't hear or feel um, any impairment in the movement, right? There's nothing restricting the movement like it should. And then, you have to look at it to make sure that they're both moving um, correctly and they're not shifting positions horizontally because, you could have a blade that looks like it's going right, but it does a slight tilt when it comes down. So when you're closing, you get inconsistent iris. So I've got to reach out to him. And then I've got another guy who's the mount is a little difficult on his A7 S3. So I have to send out replacement parts. Um, this rear part, along with this replacement here, the flange and the mount cap. So I've got to send that out. I've got to reach out to him and say, hey, this is what my plan is for you, so that we can get it working. Um, so yeah, that's my plan. I've got about 40 to do final QC checks. Um, and judging by what we did today, that was 5 in about 3 hours with a little interruption in between. So if I work through tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, I should have everything. Um, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm super excited to get it out to you. It should be headed out of the post office in northern Atlanta this Friday, um, before the stream. And typically, if we're sending it in from the US, it's about 2 to 3 days. If it's any international shipments, it could be 2 weeks. Typically, it's 2 weeks. I'm having an issue with a shipment to Vietnam. It's been stuck in the same place without an update for about 4 weeks. Now, what I understand is that shipment to Vietnam is that's about on par with the time. It's about uh, 30 to 40 days for transit. But yeah, typically we're looking at like 2 weeks. So it should be to you hopefully under the 2 weeks. Um, so we're looking at like early November. Um, but I appreciate you staying and keeping me company. Um, I was talking to my buddy about the effects of COVID on long term, but I think the effects of doing this is going to affect me greatly. We'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna cut it off here. Uh, Again, I appreciate you staying as long as you did. Everybody else who was here, who dropped by, I appreciate you guys. Um, I will be here on Wednesday, same time, and I might consider for the international folks, maybe one of these days I'll do something that lines up better with the other hemisphere, right? So we'll see. Uh, appreciate you guys. See ya.